Good evening, guys. Hello, hello. It's always exciting to come here and see everybody. First of all, let's liberate myself from the mask. How are you guys doing today? Everybody's ready for Valentine's? Wow, I'm not even looking at my husband right now because he's saying no, but all right, there's a whole weekend for us to prepare. So let's get some ideas in our heads today, and then we can take time during the weekend and we can make Valentine's Day extra special this year. Extra special. So let's start to understand a little bit about the history of Valentine's Day. What does it actually mean and where did it all start? So I found this really nice article from Arnel Sapio, a reporter on NPR that did this little piece about Valentine's Day. Through all his research, he said it was really hard to find exactly pinpoint where did it start because it's kind of like a combination of many things that brought us Valentine's Day as we know today. But good place that for him to start was looking at Lupercalia, so ancient Rome. They did have this fast, this celebration of love and fertility. And it was celebrated between February 13th and 15th. So it matches the day there for us. So how did they celebrate this Lupercalia? Does anybody know what they did? Uh, uh, yeah, it's a little sketch. Yeah. Guy is so smart. I think I should marry him. Yeah. So you were right. Oh, you see, I spent the whole week preparing this talk, and he learned that today, not from me. But yeah, you're right. So they thought that was the best idea ever to first kill a goat. And after that, let's also kill a dog. And then they would skin them, use their hides to hit the woman. So when we are saying we're hitting on a girl, it has a very ancient meaning. So they would actually hit the woman, and the woman will actually line up to be hit because that will make them fertile. So I don't know if I'll call that romantic at all, but whatever works for them, right? Exactly. So the guys would, of course, get naked and drunk and go on the streets and go be hitting the woman. And the woman will also put their names on little jars. So the guys will come, match them up, and go and see if they're fertile or not. Now, if Cupid was doing his job right, that relationship will last a little bit longer than those 2 or 3 days. Sounds like fun, right? So after that, we're gonna give a big jump and come right to the 3rd century. That's where the name most likely came from. So Claudius, the emperor, Claudius II. One year he executed a man called Valentine, and it happens to be February 14th. Few years pass, he executed another guy on the same day, also happened to be named Valentine. Now, this one was a priest, and his crime was marrying the soldiers when the emperor say, you know what, you're being too distracted by girls, so you cannot marry anymore. You're gonna be a soldier, you're gonna be just a soldier and concentrate on that. That Valentine priest was like, I believe in love, and he kept marrying the soldiers. So that was the end of his history, but his name stayed in history. So Catholic Church decided that we're going to celebrate in honor of him this day as the Day of Love. Now, a few years later, the Pope, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Gelasius first, he decided that, you know what, we like this, we like to celebrate love. Pagans are also celebrating Lupercalia and other pagan festivities in the name of love. Let's combine all of them. Let's call Valentine until we forgot all the other pagan ones. So then became still a celebration of love and fertility, but now it's called Valentine's Day. That is staying in history through many centuries. Now coming closer to our contemporary time, Shakespeare was actually the one that made a little more familiar to what we know. He romanticized the holiday. He really put the love on the celebration. Since his body of work, all his literature were becoming very popular in Britain and later on the whole Europe, also became the notion that love is something to be celebrated, something to be expressed. So writing a love note became a thing to do with Shakespeare. Now let's advance a century or more. There was the Industrial Revolution that really gave a big jump start on Valentine's Day. So on 1913, here in Kansas, a little company was born. Anybody want to take a guess? Hallmark was born, and that brought us all the cards, and later on all the chocolate or jewelry, all the guilty for the guys that forgot to get the card, right? So, ugh, kicking something here. So because of Hallmark, we then became massively to know about Valentine's Day, to celebrate, and God forbid if you forget it. So last year, the sales on Valentine's Day reached $17.6 billion. And then they're estimated that this year we're going up to 18.6. So I'm hoping that this $1 billion difference is something that my husband's getting for me, but I don't know where he's gonna get this money from, but I can always hope, right? No pressure. Yeah, yesterday we got a very weird package that's the air filter from Amazon that I'm not allowed to open. Yeah. And now if I don't give Victoria's Secrets, he'll be in such a big trouble because where is that going? So Valentine's Day for us today, it's not about goats and dogs and hitting with the hides anymore. It's about love. But what is really love for us? What we understand as love? So we do have a very nice uh, schematized um, way that the ancient Greek put it for us, because there's such a huge range of emotion when we talk about love. We have love for friends, we have love for our spouses, have love for our parents, and so on and so forth. So the Greeks decided to give a name to each type of love. So we're gonna start here with the philia kind of love. It's when you're part of a team, you're part of a group. It's like when you really want to call your friends, say, hey, let's go have pizza tonight after the center. It's a way to exteriorize, to show that you love somebody in a friendly way. We also have the storge, which is family love, a relationship or very close friends. Those are the ones that you call when you're in trouble at 3 in the morning. Those are the love for your parents, your uncles and aunts, the cousins, somebody that you know you want to have that person throughout your whole life. Also, we have the ludus. It's the fun, the playful, the exciting, more like the passion, the falling in love, the butterflies in your stomach kind of love. But also, we have a little more dark side of love here. That's the mania. Now, we can exercise this today as we go out and see all the chocolate that's going to be in the lobby. So, chocolate mania, that means we are obsessive with that kind of love. So, we joke, yeah, we have the music that we love, we have the chocolates, we have the things that we love, but it can also become quite dark when we are expressing this kind of love towards another person, that it's a possession, is I have to have you and you have to act the way I want it. So that's a little more, or very more dangerous than the other kind of love. Yeah. So, and then we have the more spiritual kind of love, the pragma. It's the love that endures. It's the being there, that wanting to do something nice for somebody else, just out of your heart, not expecting anything in turn. The philotia, not sure if I'm saying that right, but it's the self love. It's the one that you're being kind to yourself. You are giving a little credit for the things you do right. You're giving you a little room to understand the things you do wrong and grow from it. It's the self care. It's the loving of your of yourself and the acceptance too. And then we have the agape, which is the most pure kind of love that we can express. It's usually when we are thinking about spiritual God, charity, contributing, the love for humanity. So that's the most elevated, most spiritual kind of love. But the one we are talking about today is eros, where comes the erotic term. So this is the romantic or the sexual kind of love. So mostly between partners. So somebody that you really like, you wanna spend your life with a person. So when we talk about spending the life with a person, I always think of a Brazilian poet that says something very interesting about love that, let's see if I can translate. Love to be infinite while it lasts. I think it's funny. Am I translating that right? Yeah. So while it lasts, let it be infinite. Let it be your whole world. Uh, this writer, Martins Peralva, he wrote a book that was actually studying mediumship, but he does bring us the topic of relationships in this case in the book he calls marriage, but that goes for any kind of long-lasting relationship that you may have. In a spiritual sense, he categorized all relationships into five main categories. So the first one that he brings is the accidental one. So yes, it can happen. You can get married by an accident. But here we are talking about on a spiritual level. So that means that relationship or that marriage was not planned before you incarnated. It's not something that you came, I hate to say destined, but you had a plan to meet that one person and go through whatever you both needed. So mostly this kind of marriage will be brought up by a initial physical attraction. So you see somebody, you like what you're seeing, she looks back at you, and she's like, yeah, and you start the relationship and you start to move along. So quite often, this relationship can actually work really well. Now, as long as they are both are adapting to each other, they're learning, they're growing, and they having common goals. So even though it wasn't something that was planned, it is something that it can work out. And he also adds that it does happen quite often. Now the next one, oh, not that kind of next one. The next one is the trial kind of relationship. Now, those are when both partners need each other to readjust some kind of debts they had on the past or some kind of history that it was not well resolved, and they come back in another life with the plan to, we're gonna get there, we're gonna meet, we're gonna be together, and we're gonna work this out. Now, this kind of relationship, it is the most common on earth. And the whole point is that both of them will develop patience, tolerance, adaptation to each other, resignation. So it is the most common. The next one is the sacrificial one. Now, if you have your partner here and you're not trying to look, but you're like, that's probably my kind of marriage.
Keep your poker face.
Yeah, just don't look to the side. Now, in this kind of marriage, there is a huge difference in the spiritual level of both partners. Usually one, it's already more emotionally and spiritually advanced and decided to come to help this other person. So now please really don't look to your side if you have your partner here. Now, if you guys have you guys read the book 2000 years ago? Okay, so most of you read the book. On that book, the relationship, the marriage between Livia and Publius exemplify very well this kind of marriage. She was much more advanced than he was, but she decided that she was going to come, be with him, and help him on a spiritual level because intellectually he was very advanced. He was part of the Roman Empire. I believe he was a senator. So the intellectual part he was doing well, but his emotional, his spiritual was lacking very behind. So she came as a mission. She's like, I'm gonna help you out and get you back on path. And it did happen. And it took several more incarnations for him to be a to be to the capacity of being a mentor to other people. And there are rumors, I don't know if I can say that for sure, but there are rumors that he later on became one of his incarnation was as Emmanuel, which is today the mentor of Chico Xavier, that wrote many books and many of the books passages that we're going to talk about today. So there was one type of sacrificial marriage that really worked out well. Now the next one is the affinity. So those are when both partners, they had probably many marriages already of trial. They exercised their patience, their tolerance, and now they really learn how to deepen their love. So they decided to come here and be together again just because they like each other that much. So those are not as common, but it does happen and we see it happening. They may have a marriage here, they may go back to the spiritual world and still be together and decided to do another reincarnation where they can come. And usually those are the couples that come with other missions to bring along the people that they knew throughout their incarnations and help them, since they are such a solid, spiritually solid couple, then they can aid others in the same path. And of course, we have the transcendental kind of marriages. Those are spirits that are already in a much higher level, and they both come as a mission, but not to each other or to their close family or circle of family. They come with a much bigger purpose of helping humanity or their society or their cultural group. So one example that we can mention as a transcendental marriage will be Allan Kardec and Emily. uh, we don't talk much about her because he's writing all those spirit books, but she was essential on all his writings. She pretty much made a way for him to be able to do what he did for us. So those are the marriages that have a plan. Those are like those really big missions. So now, since we talk about types of marriage, it will be a really good place to remind you guys that we do have fraternal counseling here. And if you think you are in this kind of marriage, but you're actually here, or your spouse thinks that you're here, and you're not on the same page, here's a great place for you to come and talk to somebody, or even if it's just to open your heart, to have somebody to voice your concerns, or just somebody to listen and give you a little perspective of what is your role in the relationship, or what is your spiritual responsibility on any relationship. So Wednesdays at 7 o'clock.
If you are 4 or 5, come and work with us,
Yep.
right? Maybe just send it.
Hmm.
Love to have them.
Yeah, we all, even if we think that we are here, we still have a lot to learn. We are all in the same path of evolution. So even if I think I have nothing to offer in one point, I'm pretty sure I have a lot to offer in a different sense. So maybe helping just listen to other people are your calling. Just being that friendly person and express just the energy that you can give somebody just by being here and being present for somebody. So now let's talk about partnerships. I see few couples here. Um, Alex and I just celebrate our 31st year together and our 25th year of marriage. So if you're good on math, you know that I was on maternity ward when we started. No, I'm joking. But how long have you guys been together, or married, or dating? 17 years. 2021. So most of us have long relationships here. Soraya is a little bit newer, learning a lot with a new baby in the house. So we go through many things throughout our relationship. It's like each year it's a whole new person that you are meeting, even though you have the history, but since we're all growing, it's always something new, right? But one thing that we realize, even if you had 5 weeks of relationship, it is easy, guys.
Piece of cake. Piece of cake.
You make it very easy. So it's not
Yeah, usually they think that the girls are making it easier. Okay, yeah, it's very cold tonight. He doesn't want to sleep on the porch. That's what it is. So when we think about partnership, being spending any amount of time with somebody in a committed relationship, most of us always want to look for a good partner. You want somebody that will share things with you. So you spend a lot of time thinking, how do I want the person to be before you meet the person? Or you idealize in your mind, ooh, this is what I'm looking for. And once you meet the person, if it's not exactly what you're looking for, you spend a lot of time thinking, how can I make that person to be what I'm looking for? But now, I hope now we are learning that There's only one person that we can change, right? Ourselves. So it doesn't matter how much time we try to change the person, it's not gonna happen. We may train them to do this or that because you'll have consequences, but we are not changing the person until the person wants to be changed. So it is a mute point trying to change anybody else. So how much time are we spending and worrying about and working on being a good partner? As we grow older, we think more about that. But I remember when I was younger, I was not thinking about being the best partner. I was looking for what that person can give it to me. And until we get out of that pattern of thinking, we're probably going to have a hard time finding somebody. Um, Now, what can we do? If I cannot change the person, I can only change myself. So I need to look inside. I need to first deal with my emotional baggage, with all my trauma, with all my issues, so I can be a better person. So if I ended up finding somebody to spend the life with me, great. If I don't find it, great, because I know who I am and I'm a complete person on myself. And by being a complete person, I can be with somebody without needing that person to be something for me. We can be just merging instead of one taking from the other. Now, until we do this type of exercise and this type of learning, we're going to be trying to be the person that somebody else is looking for. So if I look at a guy, I like him, I want to have a relationship with him, but I'm not really certain who I am or where I stand, I'm going to try to be what he's looking for. So if he's a guy that would be saying, I would love a girl to take long walks on the beach and have that nice profile on Match.com, whatever names they have, I'm going to try to be the person. And I may even succeed for a while. And we may have every weekend long walks on the beach. But one day, he's going to look at me and say, you've changed. And then I have to stop and think, am I changing because I'm growing, I'm learning new things, I'm evolving? Or am I changing because now I'm taking the mask that I put on for so many years and I'm actually hate the sand of the beach. I want to be in the mountains exploring. So where am I in here? I'm completely lost until I find who I am. So if on the beginning of the relationship I knew that I am a mountain girl and he's looking for long walks on the beach, I may say, that's quite interesting, but I'm more interested in that. So what about each weekend we go to a different place and your whole relationship may have a completely different story. So the whole point is that we need to look within. Now, I'm going to give you one little tool that's not part of Spirit's book or Spirit's kind of line of thought, but it's something that I really like and I think that may help pretty much every couple. So there is this book that I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with, The Five Love Languages. So Gary Chapman is a therapist, and he realized that most of the relationship issues that he was treating in his office was not because one partner was in love and the other one was not. It was mostly an issue of communication. And as he started to grow his practice, he realized that actually they are both in love, but they express love in a different way. And they are just not talking the same language. So, just like Martins Peralva did the categories of types of marriage, he talked about the love languages. So, the first one that he talked about is words of affirmation. So that would be the person that the way they express love is through voice, to praise, to uplifting messages, always very vocal. Then the physical touch. That will be the person that likes to touch, likes to be close, likes to hug. Not necessarily a sexual kind of touch, but just the actual touch, the tactile experience. The other one was the receiving gifts. So not only they express love by giving a gift, they understand love when somebody give them a gift, but also on the time that they knew the person put into buying the gift or searching and thinking what would she like. So that's the kind of mind that the person will have. The other one will be the quality time. So that's the person that gives you attention, like no cell phone, no other person, not answering your phone, not looking at the TV while you're having conversation. It's here, me and you. That's how they'll show love. And we have the acts of service. That will be the person that will do something for you. So that person will look to run errands, to put gas in your car, or do the chores, or cook a meal. So those are all genuine types of love that they express. But the person with the partner may have a completely different language. So imagine if you are the kind of acts of service type of language. You go home, you clean the house completely, you cook this beautiful meal, you would run and do errands. So you are creating everything perfect for the person you love. Now, the person you love has the quality time. So that person, the only thing that they are seeing is that you are cooking, you're cleaning, you're always out shopping and going to the bank and running errands. You're never there for me when I need to be with you. So even though they're both here loving each other, the way they express is not getting across. So the person doing all this act of service will be like, okay, I'm doing everything for you, and all you do is complain that I'm not here. So I really recommend you guys to look for this book. Right on the beginning, he has a nice questionnaire. Not that long, guys. You can do 20 questions or so. You go on and you learn what is your type of love. So throughout the book, he'll go and he'll explain how you express love and how you are hoping to be shown love. And then as he'll go through all the types, he'll be talking about, okay, so if you were the quality time, but your partner is receiving or physical touch, how can you guys learn about each other so you recognize that the person is not avoiding you by running errands and cleaning the house? They're actually showing you love. So once we know what each other are doing, we'll have much better way to recognize that's actually love. And by recognizing, we are more open and we are more given to. So I really recommend this book.
What's your name?
My language.
Is that too personal?
No, it's not. But funny enough, since it's me, it's never gonna be one. I'm right between right two of those. So I have the receiving gifts, but more on a giving way. I rather give a gift than receive a gift, and the acts of service, which I think my husband's very happy that I do everything. He doesn't have to do anything. But it does help when you're able to recognize that actually I am being valued and loved. It's not just the way that I'm used to recognize. But there are a few more things that we need to talk. Well, hopefully we'll have enough time to talk about everything. So one thing, when we're talking about Valentine and love, we gotta talk about the things we cannot confuse, which will be sex and love. So in this book, Sex and Evolution, we cannot confuse sex and love. Sex is an instinctive force, unconscious. As love, on the other hand, is a conscious energy and it is spontaneous. Also, the book that we read here, always on the beginning of the meeting from Joana de Angelis and Divaldo Franco, same author. She has another book, After the Storm. That book you can find on the in United States Spirit Federation website. Chapter 4, she talks about passions. And she says, the power of emotion which propels man toward passion proceeds from his inner spiritual being. It is then transformed into a physical reaction, either raising him to the pinnacles of nobility or making him descend into the pits of vice and degradation. So she's giving us a clue here where the sexual energy actually starts. It's not something that comes from outside in, it is starting on our inner being. And what we do with that, it's going to either bring us to nobility or degradation. So it's all up to us. Now, are we really going to talk about sex here in the center?
You tell me.
Well, Livia doesn't. Livia didn't saw all the slides that I prepared for you today. So
No,
this may be my last time talking, but let's do it.
We don't talk about Bruno.
There you go. Now, if you are a person that's easily offended, I invite you to sit closer and give me a chance. No, I'm joking. If you're easily offended, you may want to go home now. But I tell you, the things we're gonna talk for the next 20 minutes or so, it's something that I'll talk to my grandma. She will probably be blushing a little bit, but I will talk to her about. So you guys are safe. And if this is my last lecture, it was a pleasure, guys. Now, but let's talk about it. I think we should have more this kind of talk. So sex is creative energy, but love needs to be together, functioning as secure guideline. And that's because we are not just bodies. It's not just emotions and tensions. We have a spirit. We are a spirit that have a body. So we cannot just be doing the bodily function part. We have something else. And Chico Xavier, on the book Interviews, they ask him about what is the place for spiritism when we are talking about sex. And he says that higher order spirits enlighten us that spiritism will contribute to topics like sex to be treated with due respect, without the taboos that create hypocrisy and irresponsibility that propels to depravity. So it is our place to talk about sex in the center because it's a huge part of our life. It is the creative point of our physical life. It is the beginning. So being such a huge part of our lives also become a huge portion of tension and disagreements. And most of us comes from a background that we grow up learning that sex is a sin. It's something that we don't talk about it, put right there with politics and religion, and something that you discuss behind closed doors. You don't bring sex to a church, you don't bring sex to a center. No, we do. So we're gonna talk about it. So the, there is no better place for us to talk about sex than here. First of all, it is a safe place, and we are taking consideration our spiritual life. We're taking consideration our mental health, our mental psyche, and all our capabilities, and how we deal between all those areas of our lives. So, evolution into words, André Luiz say to us, the natural energy of sex inherent to life itself generates magnetic charges in all beings due to its creative function. And this creative function is not just creating a new physical body. It's the creation, the creativity, all that energy that brings life and joy to us. And later on, he says, it is in its impulses and manifestations, sex is mental, and it transcends all impositions of the body in which it is expressed. So right there, we're like, okay, it's giving us a little clue that actually sex is mental and it only expresses itself on the body. And it transcends all the imposition of the body. So if we come from a thought that the body is demanding, I cannot hold my urges because of my body, you're fooling yourself because it's you, yourself, you as a spirit that wants whatever you want, and now you're blaming on the body not being able to control. And if even if it doesn't need to be controlled or not. Um, we're going to talk about a few more books from André Luiz, and I just want to point it out that if we think, if we only read No Solar, and we think that the whole series of 16 books, it's just romance and talk about how the spirit world is, I really suggest you guys to get into those 16 books because each one has a different topic, and it's like a university, a year of a university in each book. And especially on evolution into words, missionaries of light, and I believe in the greater world. Those are three that talk a lot about sex, about the sex in the spiritual world, and about how the sex energy change or can affect our spiritual relations. On the International Magazine of Spiritism, Dr. Di Bernardi said that sex is not for reproduction purpose alone. If it was, we'll be just ruled by heat cycle like animals. The sexual energy exists also as a force to propel us into evolution and as an energy exchange between individuals. So for the few of us that grew up, especially in Catholic Church, that has that mentality that sex is for reproduction only, where what are we going to do with all this other energy, or how are we going to relate it using our sexual energy even with our all the types of love that we talk about, the loves with their family, with our friends. This is all coming from the same source. So sex itself or the sexual energy, it's not just a talk about reproduction. So when we start to realize, okay, it's not a thing of the body. So where does it all start? So missionaries of the light, André Luiz, tell us, and this text is a little bit hard to read because it's super technical in this book. And he says, by secreting subtle psychic energies. So he's not talking about hormones, sexual hormones, or anything else. He's talking about psychic energies. The pineal gland maintains control over the entire endocrine system. So, not just the sexual part, the entire system. It connects the mind through electromagnetic principles in the vital field. So, the vital field is that energy field that connects our perispirit to our body. That's when we go to have our passes later, that we talk about aligning our chakras. That is the field that we're aligning all this energy between all the chakras. So he's saying it is an electromagnetic principle that goes throughout the whole body, which ordinary science has not yet been able to identify. It commands subconscious powers under the direct determination of the will. So we are the ones commanding, determine what is happening with our endocrine system through our pineal gland. So going back again, we can control all our sexual activities because it's not a matter of the body, it's a matter of the mind. So if we can control our mind, we can control the sexual activities. Now, controlling your mind is a whole different beast. Now, yeah, I need to point it out that when he says here, which ordinary science has not yet been able to identify, this book, Missionaries of Light, was written in the 40s. I believe 1946, I believe, 47. But late 40s, it's when he wrote this book. So at that time, the medical science that we know didn't have an idea that pineal gland has anything to do with all this. Up to the point what we thought of pineal gland was this tiny little gland that's there, that's just holding the development of your sexual organs until puberty. And after that, it does nothing. So it only holds the progress of the organs until puberty, and that's it. So he comes and he tells all this, and it's all new information. Um, I do not know the name, but I know there was a project in a university in Sao Paulo that they did a study with all the, the information, the medical information he brought us in this book, and matching to the science of that point. And most of the information about the pineal gland was not scientifically discovered until late 60s and the 70s. So he was at least 30 years ahead of us bringing all this information. Of course, nowadays we have a much better understanding of what the pineal gland does, and an even better understanding of the connection between the mind, the body, and the soul. Now, another thing that the pineal gland does is, here in spiritism, we call our mental glands, our mental seat of the soul in our body. So this is the gland that we use to make the connection with the spirit world, with the spirits, whether they're incarnated or not, and their emotions. So if it is a gland that controls a lot of our sexual energy, and it is also a gland that controls our mediumship abilities, which is natural to everybody, and controls how we related to each other. It brings me the question, when we are ready to embark into the sexual act, and you go and you close the doors and you think it's just you and your partner, is there really just you and your partner?
Hey, don't ruin it for me.
I'll give you the keys to lock the door, okay?
That should make us paranoid.
That may be the day that everybody starts to study spiritism now.
So you talk about sex, but you want to ruin it.
No, I'm going to make it better. So instead of me telling you anything and then you blame me, let's ask Kardec. So Kardec asked the spirits, so do spirits influence our thoughts and our actions? And they say they often direct both. Their influence is greater than you think, for very frequently it is they who guide you. So, okay, we know that we always talk about these questions, and here we talk about influences and how we have to maintain our mental state and think about good things because that's what you're going to attract. But what happened when you go on and you close the door, right? So somebody was brave enough and asked that directly to Divaldo Franco. And I'm actually going to read exactly what he says because it's just perfect. And this magazine here is a Spirits magazine. This is 2010, so quite a few years old. But I do have some copies right there on the table. So as you go into the passes, if you want, you can grab one copy. So they ask Divaldo, all the reports, we understand that spirits can interfere on our daily events. Can it also happen during sexual intercourse? And he gives us the good and the bad news. The spirits participate in our thoughts, words, and actions, and can even inspire us. However, this does not mean that we are their puppets. So, yes, we can lock the door and leave them out. We're not going to be controlled by them. It turns out that we live in a universe of waves, thoughts, vibrations of mind, as Einstein stated. This gives rise to attunements, affinities, and the impact of emotional background. Therefore, according to our aspirations and feelings, we attract spirits who behave on the same vibratory frequency. So, if you are closing the door, but your intentions are elevated, are pure, are not without any degradation or taking advantage of anybody, you'll be on the same symphony of spirits of the same level. And those higher spirits are very respective of your personal time, of your privacy. So they are gonna say, okay, let's hang on the living room, or if it's happening on the living room, let's go to the backyard. They're not gonna be invading. Now, if you are in the mental state that you're just looking for the next person or who else you can conquer or taking advantages or any kind of degradation, or if it's just a bodily function and you care nothing for the person, no feelings, you of course will have the same spiritual influence company, and they may, if they're in the level, they may not care for your privacy. They may actually think that let's jump in. So good news, bad news, let's study more so we can keep on the higher frequency here. When the sexual relationship is the result of affection, communion of feelings, beautiful aspirations, and tenderness, there's a special protection for partners who are in the spirit on the superior emotional field. That happens because sexual function is a source of inexhaustible energy which, when well focused, sustains life and produces living joy. However, when relationships are characterized by erotic desires, vices, aberrations, equally perverted spirits can also participate in the act. So, enough said, right? Um, There's the magazine if you want to take a copy. The whole article is very interesting because they ask a lot of questions about how is the sexual life in the spiritual world. So I got the little notice it is 8 o'clock and have a lot more to talk. So I'm going to speed up a little bit. This slide in itself could be a 2-hour conversation because the most important part for us to discuss in the center will be what are the responsibilities of the sexual act. So we have we're gonna come back. If I'm allowed to come back, we're gonna talk about those topics. So it's gonna be the communion of energy, the relationship between are they intruding in my privacy or are they staying behind because they are higher orders? We're talking about how to protect your mental field. We talk about pregnancies and wanted or unwanted pregnancies and what can happen with all that. Sexually transmitted disease. I'm listening to a book now that talks about AIDS and people that had AIDS, how they were in the spiritual words afterwards, and it's fantastic the information. I learned a lot about that. So there's a lot to talk here. The mental and psychological effects of on your partner. So it's your responsibility to be a good source of energy for that person too. And of course, so the moral and the ethics, but without the dogmas, without the it is a sin, there are things you can do or cannot do. We'll come back to that. Now, when we talk about sexuality, we have to recognize that nobody is exactly the same. Everybody has different type of sexuality. Um, Spirit's book, When Aaron, question 202. When Aaron, which does the spirit prefer? To come as a woman or a man? And say, it does not matter. What matter is the decision, and the decision is the trial that the spirit will need to undergo. So it may be as a woman, it may be as a man. It doesn't really matter. Emmanuel tells us a little bit about different types of sexuality and how we should be understanding of what they are. Human collectivity all gradually learning to understand that all concepts of normality and abnormality are unsatisfying when simply related to morphological signs. So it's not just the body dictating anything. Thus, humanity will elevate itself to higher levels regarding the definition of human dignity once individuality in itself exhausts community life through one's own behavior in the maintenance of good for all, or depression for the evil it causes as a part of that which one embraces in the game of delinquency. So it does not really matter if you are heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, everything sexual, or anything. What it matters is what you're doing with your sexuality, how you are expressing that. However, to the millennia, spirit goes through an immense line of reincarnation, sometimes as a woman, sometimes as a man, and that established the phenomenon of bisexuality, which can be more or less evident in almost all individuals. So today we may have a male or female body. We may also, not we may, we probably all have traces of masculine or feminine traits, which may match what we are living as now or may not match. So as we as we evolve as a spirit, we become more a spirit, asexual in a way that we are being able to express ourselves just as a loving spirit. All those labels of masculine and femininity will fall down once we don't need them anymore. Now, important for us, not just as a parent or if you have youngsters, but when observing homosexual tendencies in reincarnated fellows in trial or experience. So they choose Also, it's not just something that may come as homosexual or bisexual. Because of a trial, they may choose to go through that experience. It is a must to give them appropriate educational support in the same way that will be given to heterosexual. So the point here is educational and the support that we give. This because all matters in this area of evolution and life are specified in the intimacy of each one's conscience. So we don't know what the person did before. We don't know why they reincarnated the way they are now. And it's not our job to know. Our job is to learn how to be a tolerant person and how to deal with our traumas, our issues, our whole baggage, and just let the other person deal with theirs. The field of love is infinite in its essence and in its manifestation. And that's all we're going to talk about today.